This session is being organized under the aegis of MSME Council of BCIC. We'd like to specially thank Mr. Indushekar, BR, Chairman, BCIC MSME Council, and Head Strategy Development and Operations, Volvo Group India, for curating this session for the benefit of our members at this right junction. The objective of today's session is that we all are aware that very soon the industries will restart its operation after the announcement of unlock by the government. We will share certain best practices on integrated and holistic approach towards occupational health and safety at the workplace, and also provide simple and effective guidelines towards the effective management. Today's session will be addressed by Dr. Sunil Kasturi, Occupational Health Specialist at Volvo Construction Equipments India. The session will be moderated by Mr. B.R. Indushekar, Chairman of the MSME Council. On behalf of the Chamber, we express our sincere thanks to Dr. Sunil Kasturi for accepting our invitation to address today's session. We would also like to thank all the participants for joining in today's session. We request all the participants to kindly mute your mic and webcam option. This will enhance and keep the bandwidth strong as well as avoid any disturbance in the background. If required, you could raise your hand for any questions. Please post your questions in the chat box only. Doctor will be able to respond to your questions during the session. May I now invite Mr. Indushekar to set the context for today's subject and also moderate the session. Thanking you once again all. Over to you, Mr. Indushekar, sir.
Thank you, Prithvi, and good evening to all. Saturday evening, perhaps some of us on a 5 day, some of us maybe on the 6 day week, but it's been more or less work from home for most of us, except those essential services which have been permitted to run their industries. So today, the facts on the COVID is something that all of us are quite aware, but the restart is going to happen very soon. So BCIC and then of course Mr. BC Prabhakar himself making this request to Chief Minister, perhaps very soon the restart with maybe a workforce anywhere at about 50% could be allowed. And there is a reason when they say, don't try to start with complete workforce. And that's because the Gamba itself will have challenges. The Gamba, that means the place where the value addition takes place. You have the people in that particular area, then you have material, methods, everything happening. So it is also extremely challenging to get that physical distancing at Gamba. But I think what Dr. Sunil Kasturi, he would take us through if we comply to some of those, very important guidelines or SOPs, and we take those measures at Gamba, apart from the employee vaccination drive, which many of the companies have initiated it, perhaps we can make sure that continue the production, achieve the required levels of performance and productivity with the right kind of COVID protocols. So without wasting much time, I would call upon Dr. Sunil Kasturi, who has been driving this across Volvo Group India, both at construction equipment plant and also at Hoskote plant, along with the response management team that has got created. So let's listen to Dr. Sunil Kasturi, and I would encourage all the members who are participating here today, please ask your questions, get those clarifications, and we want to make this more interactive so that way, the purpose of this awareness is served to the best. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Sunil Kasturi.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Sunil Kasturi, a medical officer and occupational health specialist, currently associated with Volvo Construction, uh, Pinia location, Bangalore. Well, I must thank the panel also for having given me this opportunity to share my experiences and views on role and responsibilities of occupational health and safety at Gamba, especially during this current scenario of COVID second wave. It becomes
We lost him.
We lost. Oh, he's there. I could see doctor. Doctor, please unmute. Please unmute. How? Go ahead, doctor.
so let me know if you're able to see the screen.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, great. So let me start the discussion subject with a brief background about the disease. Why we are here discussing about this disease makes a very important time management and safety precautions which is followed across industries, which is a need of the hour. So let me tell you briefly about what is this coronavirus and what is the kind of impact it has caused across nations, and the kind of impact it has caused in industries and businesses, in fact into individual life also. So this particular coronavirus is declared as an emergency of international concern by WHO in the month of June 2020, and subsequently looking at the nature of its community spread and fatality, it was considered as a pandemic. So we are all aware the nature of the disease is so severe and it could turn into fatality any point in time. So before I go further into the discussion, I'll give just a brief clinical explanation about how this disease spreads and what is the nature of illness one person experiences, so that with this background, we'll have a better understanding of what are our preventive measures and what are our tools and techniques and mechanisms we follow in the industries to safeguard oneself and also the workplace. So let me tell you about the clinical part of the disease. So it is considered as a respiratory illness. Like we all know, it spreads from the droplets. Any person who comes in close proximity of an infected person, he has a chances of getting the infection contracted through the virus if it is inhaled by a healthy person. So that is why this has got two modes of transmission. One is a direct transmission, that is what I said, if a person comes in close contact. And second one is an indirect transmission, that is even if there is no one around, but there are chances that when a person coughs or sneezes, the droplets fall on the surface. It could be the table, it could be the chair, it could be in the meeting room. So it could be the any coffee place or any place. So there are chances that the healthy person or any other person knowingly unknowingly he comes to that place and accidentally he touches that surface and he touches his face, nose or mouth. There are the chances that he gets infected. So with this background, I will just share my entire presentation so that we are well aware that which are the areas of potential risk and how we are able to manage with safe practices. We are not going to do any high advanced techniques, but with whatever the basic personal hygiene and safe protocols on site, we can to some extent handle the situations in a safe manner. So let me take you through the first slide. See, some of the best practices I am glad to share at my workplace, Volvo, to mitigate the COVID-19 risk. And of course, these strategies are to break the chain, like we all know. So we have to have a role responsibility and readiness at the occupational health center. That is an on-site health clinic, which is normally in any of the manufacturing plant is readily available to handle work-related injuries or workplace illness. So this being a notifiable disease, now the key role is of the health center, and being a medical officer with the health center, me and my paramedic make sure We are well prepared of all the requirements at the health center. And what is a safe handling procedure? Number two is on-site safety protocols and preventive measures. So having taken care of some of the safety measures, which is, worldwide practice and, well defined guidelines with the WHO. So these are the practices I'm going to share you in some time. There are on-site screening protocols, vaccination drive, awareness programs, diet and nutrition, physical and mental health, because this being a little bit stressful situation. So we have a role to play regarding the mental health also. Travel health advisory plays an important role. Regular disinfection and sanitization is become a mandatory practice. And sharing government guidelines and public health programs, which are time and again released by MOH, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And of course, in the end, I would share some of the challenges we face at the Gemba, especially where the workforce is not well equipped with the information of, of a safe practice or unable to understand the safe protocols when it comes to material handling, safety, or wearing PPE or adhering to social distance. Go to the next slide. So before going to this is something like the WHO and ILO, or the International Labour Organization and World Health Organization. These are the competent bodies who have recommended and guidelines to prevent COVID-19 infection and spread at general workplace. So their key agenda is to promote good respiratory hygiene at workplace, because there is a population gathering, of course, and respiratory hygiene means we have to educate in what are the hygiene practice, like by providing face masks, disposable tissue paper, closed bins for safe disposal of the tissues, promote regular hand washing and sanitizer hand rub dispenser at prominent places around the workplace, which makes it accessible to people who are visiting within the campus or external visitors. The staff, contractors, customers, anybody should have access to a hand wash facility at the entry point with soap and water. And thirdly, disinfection and sanitization. Since there is a day-to-day activities going on in the shop floor or in the working workplace, so it requires a complete cleaning of the place on a periodic basis. Even the cleanliness of the objects like you're using knowingly and unknowingly could be the source of infection, like the telephones, the keyboards. So one should take self responsibility also to keep them wiped and disinfect them regularly. Fourth, public transportation or crowded places is part of social distancing of 2 meters. It is very much encouraged not to venture into a crowded places or public places where the crowd is more. Reason being, it's a very fast spread from person to person. Like I initially told you, the direct transmission is much higher. The more the crowd, I would consider more than one person as a crowd. And in case you are in a crowd of more than 3 to 4 people, there is a chances of high infection. And lastly, last but not the least, creating awareness, which plays a very important role, since this is a new norm and a lot of us are not aware because we are habituated to our daily routines and practices. This new norm becomes a little difficult for people to accept and to practice. But a repeated briefing, a repeated counseling, whether it is a contractor, customer, or an employee, we have to educate about the importance of hygiene and self-isolation in case with mild symptoms. Also have poster displays on prominent places so that there is a reminder every now and then whenever you are moving across that place, you are able to see the poster. It reminds you that social distance is important and don't get too proximity to the another person. And of course, early testing, tracing, isolation treatment, vaccine and COVID discipline, they remain the key elements to beat the pandemics, because without this systemic and multi-dimensional approach, it is quite difficult to handle the situation. So once we create this awareness and once we have a clear understanding about the preventive measures should revolve around this particular potential risky areas. So I'll just come to the first slide where I wanted to talk about OHC preparedness. That's an on-site health clinic setups. So we must ensure for any contingency we are well equipped with the complete PPE kit, whether it is an N95 mask, nitrile gloves, goggles, body gown, just in case there is any uneventful incidents, a doubtful COVID or non-COVID case, but you're unable to diagnose on the spot, but you have to handle it very precautionarily, wearing all the PPEs, so that we have to have a proper team to manage such scenarios, having equipments like oxygen cylinder and concentrator for emergency needs, hospital tie-ups, ambulance support, list of nearby hospitals with their telephone number for emergency referrals, and a temporary isolation room just next to the health center makes it easy for the medical team to handle and safely send home for home isolation or for the further medical treatment for anybody who's having flu-like symptoms. And then we have mock drills to evaluate and standardize patient approach on a timely basis so that we have a team formed and they're well informed of the kind of approach they should have once there is any such scenarios of a person unwell and seriously unwell, not just unwell, it's fine. He can walk into the medical room or isolation room. Then awareness session and vaccination camp, which remains a mainstay. Testing protocols on site when we get restarted. There'll be a lot of testing protocols required because we have to ensure safety of each and every one who's entering, because it's not just individual safety. We have to ensure safety of the workplace too, whether it is a visitor, whether it's an employee, a new joinee, pre-employment, a person after a long leave or a sick absence, short-term contract workers, or suspected primary contact. This is my experience I'm sharing because I have to make sure these people are well aware what is the purpose and what is the need of this particular testing requirement. And of course, those who are unfortunate, infected, the home quarantine cases, we maintain a register, have a proper follow-up. We do the teleconsultation and counseling so that they are well informed about the nature of illness and they should not panic and what is the right approach. They should not go for just self-medication, things like that. And we also record the daily OPD register like flu-like symptoms and the follow-up status. So just coming to one of the features I discussed about the safety best practices, on-site protocols like which helps us in break the chain strategies. So I'm going a little bit in general preventive measures in the industrial setup. Of course, I'll come to the Gemba where there is a lot of requirement of awareness and other active initiatives to make the preparedness better. So, of course, the on-site protocol, first thing is to adhere to wearing mask and social distance. Nobody is allowed without the wearing facing face mask or social distancing. A thermal screening has become a part of the daily routine, periodically done. Even during the tea breaks, we ensure we are able to measure the temperature. We never know there is some person who gets a temperature later point in time after getting to the premises. So oxygen saturation test, though it is a clinical requirement, but just for the sake of safety, if anybody is unwell or is an asymptomatic person, but oxygen saturation could help us detect early detection. Self-declaration forms. So we try to educate people to fill in the self-declaration form. It becomes an important tool to gather data about the person if he has a recent travel, most importantly interstate travels, because it was need of the hour after the first wave that a lot of other states were badly facing the crisis of COVID infectivity. So we had to make this look very much serious and important from the safety point of view, work safety. So COVID reporting system. So this is something if somebody's fallen ill or he's been tested positive. So there is a format where he informs his manager or immediate reporting person about the tested being tested positive, and then we take his information about his primary contacts, who were the people he were in touch with, so that we are able to inform these primary contacts to maintain self-isolation or home quarantine. So we maintain a thorough record of this entire group of people, and on a regular basis, we have a follow-up also. Anybody on a positive case, COVID positive, there's no need to panic. Counseling is some system we have adopted to. So it is an initial connect of the doctor with the patient, and we educate him about the entire nature of the course of illness, how it is going to be, and how he should be prepared mentally and physically. But just by simple, self-monitoring techniques, there is no need to get into the panic zone. These are certain education we do for the person who is home quarantine. Then, of course, the primary contact, isolation room, anybody who's in a sickness absence, we try to, request to encourage him to get a Sync fitness certificate post sickness absence. There are visitors guidelines to ensure we don't miss out any person with a poor health condition or who needs medical attention but unaware of his own health status. Then, of course, the cafeteria, we have the key place where the people meet, a lot of gathering happens. So we, to avoid this gathering and social distancing, we have to maintain a staggered timing. So enough seating arrangement to make a safe distance and regular sanitization of disinfection of the rooms, floors, surfaces, common touch points. It's become a routine service now in all the workplaces. These are some of the events driven in the premises. Just sharing a glimpse of vaccination drive recently being done. A very important tool to break the chain strategy, and we have to encourage everyone because there is a lot of apprehension. Let me tell you, there is a lot of apprehension and a lot of hesitation in some section of the people. They think it is going to, affect their health in a long run. So this is something what I experienced during this vaccination camp, and one-to-one counseling helped a lot to build some confidence in the person who's supposed to be vaccinated, because we have to educate him with the benefits of taking the vaccine, how it reduces the infectivity chances, how it reduces the hospitalization chances, and how it affects the overall fatality in a person. Especially, it is very much recommended for the senior citizens
The
and
data
those.
breach in terms of the disclosure, in terms of the protection, in terms of the interpretation of the law. Moving.
Hello. Yeah. So in partnership with BBMP, we could conduct this event, day-long event. So by showing this drive, so we as an organization showcase our enthusiasm and our seriousness towards creating a safe work environment. So coming to the awareness program, so as a medical professional and having a better knowledge and proper preparedness.
Anybody can answer these questions.
Sorry. I think a lot of lectures and webinars we conduct on a periodic basis, whether it is the office workers or the shop floor workers. Sessions are held in a batch-wise manner, making sure the social distance and all the appropriate COVID behaviors, so that we are able to address their concerns. And it is a very good platform to address the concerns in any lectures and webinars. So most of the topics I cover is the nature of illness and how a self-care and responsibility plays a role. A vaccination, of course, potential risky activities, comorbidities, and health risks. Personal habit and lifestyle choices also impact the health in the long run. So it is not just vaccination that you have to take care of. There is a personal habit and lifestyle choices which makes a big difference. Then there is communication on travel health advisories, when to restrict your travel and what is a good time and what is a return from travel guidelines. We keep sharing with the employees on a timely basis. Well, this is one of the very important slides I wish to share, and Indu sir was very keen in giving a more description about how the Gamba challenges you have approached and what are the kind of challenges they face, and how have you been interactions been in educating and containing the spread of COVID-19. So as you all know, Gemba is one place where the shop floor staff will be closely associated because of the nature of the work. It is unavoidable to make a proper social distance, but we have to take some measures, though it may be look uncomfortable, like giving them the gloves and giving them the face shield and making sure that post any such activity which involves a close association, you must go wash your hands or you take a break and sanitize your hands and things like that. So primarily, like we know, this respiratory illness, it has a very strong tendency, especially when there is a workforce of, a group of people, especially in industries engaged because of the contaminated surface. So making sure whenever there is a coffee break or a tea break, there is a surface cleaning happens very periodically without miss. And see, some of the challenges what I would like to speak about is exposure can not only happen at the workplace, it can happen outside the workplace also. We have to make sure that the person is well aware what are the chances of a person getting exposed and infected, because it is not just that in-house practices and COVID appropriate behavior should be followed within the workplace premises. So while traveling to work or during the work related travel to any area with local community transmission, or as well as on the way to and from the workplace, this is a potential area where a person is in touch with the other community persons, and there are chances of the infection getting passed on from one person to another person. So I would like to emphasize on two main aspects here, that is individual responsibilities and workplace responsibilities with preparedness. Of course, there is a lot of government responsibilities which is rolled down every now and then regarding the home quarantine guidelines or testing guidelines. So in the Gemba, the most of our communications are based out of how to educate a person on taking self-care and self-responsibility. I think this I feel is a strong message which one should understand, because just by implementing some safety protocols and practices at workplace, it does not suffices the entire safety measure. I would suggest always an individual able to understand what is the responsibility and care they should follow. So we educate them on why you should wear compulsorily mask, and what is the importance of hand hygiene practice, and how it is going to help you screening at the entry points and maintaining a physical distance. We make use of the tea breaks also. When there is a tea refreshment break, myself, doctor, and the paramedic, we take this opportunity to interact with the uh, people during the tea break. We educate them on not to get into too much closer grouping, so as to avoid the social gathering there. Maintain distance. You have anything to interact with your fellow colleague, please maintain some distance. And all these small things, I think these are to be considered, because this is a luxury leisure time for them. So they get into the comfort zone and get close with the fellow colleague. So we have to educate, kindly maintain social distance. We don't know the background of other person's recent travel or any other family history, so that is important. Early reporting is something we encourage. We take into confidence the team leaders, also the supervisors, the managers. We try to incorporate this in their daily communication. There is the early morning, before the start of the work, there is a briefing to all the colleagues. So they must tell that if anybody is unwell or having any health issues, please bring it up to the medical team or to us, so that we have an early response to that situation and we don't allow it to flare up in any manner. So early illness reporting helps us in early identification, early testing and diagnosis helps us, proper isolation and proper timely medical attention is, availed. That way we are able to, allow any further eventualities which turns into critical. So constant participations in training and educational session is very important. And there is a constant flow of communication information sharing through mails. The testing and tracing protocols is communicated to the fellow colleagues in the Gemba on a very timely basis. We try to inform them what are the government health plans, existing health plans, so that they are well aware of the government health programs, also ongoing health programs, and how they have different facilities, whether it is a home isolation or a COVID care facility, which can be availed at the time of any requirement. So getting vaccinated, its aim is like 100% immunization is the target. Any organization would be looking forward to have 100% immunization in the workplace. That creates a lot of confidence in the workers. And secondly, I'll come to the workplace responsibility and preparedness. I would categorize them into three areas of approach. Three areas of approach, like proactive, active, and reactive. Of course, proactive is like advanced preparation, like you are doing an RAT test before restarting of the work. So you can almost like measure in case anybody has a health issue. So you can be given a due consultation on the right time and made aware of his situation so that he can take a proper call on that. Online awareness sessions just like this. So as a medical professional, it becomes our moral responsibility to create this awareness on a very need basis. Active approach is like screening on a daily basis, early identification, and quick isolation and testing, tracing, and treating. And a reactive phase is like, you should be ready with a contingency plan, such as, are readily prepared with emergency essentials to handle a case, a suspect or a positive case, with, entire PPEs, medicines, oxygen, hospital tie-up, ERT members well alert of the situation, ambulance support, etc. And some of the key areas which requires a constant supervision is the canteen services. Like I told earlier, this is a place, which requires a high level of cleanliness. A very periodic cleanliness is required. Safe distance seating arrangement, staggered entry of the people, periodic health checks or rat tests for the canteen staff, daily and periodic temperature checks, inquiry for any flu-like symptoms, and vaccination of the staff. This is a must for our canteen service providers and other staff, so that they are the food service providers. So we have to take good care of their health, because the nature of the disease is such, like, one goes to get the food, there are always chances of cross infection. And secondly, the housekeeping staff, like I already told, these are the people who have the reach out into different communities. They have a lot of travel to their native places, and we must educate them on meeting the doctor before, after resuming to work after any long leave. We make sure anybody who's unwell, we have a periodic health check. We create one-to-one counseling for these people so that they're well aware of the situation. Many a time they think it's a office initiatives, and in the office I am taking good care of myself. I'm wearing mask and social distance. At the same time, we try to educate them. It is not just the office place where you have to follow these as safe practices. Even outside world, especially in the family circle, they keep moving to their relatives house, family friend, and these are certain information we have to share them very carefully so that they understand and follow it. Then comes the security personnel. They are our frontline warriors, like we all know. They'll be coming in contact with various visitors and vendors on a day-to-day basis. There'll be a lot of visitors, customers visiting the plant. So we have to educate them on strict adherence to PPEs, with face shields, hand gloves, so that and social distance, which I missed to mention here. These are certain strict protocols for the security personals. And vaccination, of course, it's always a very essential for any individual. And the next comes the customers and the vendors. We are making sure, because they are our business earners. We don't want to lose business, and we have to have the business continuity plans. We have to keep in touch with our customers and vendors. But then at the same time, we have to safeguard our interest. We have to clearly educate them, and we have to encourage them to follow our safety system in-house, such as self declaration forms. It is a kind of form which one has to inform about his any recent illness, if at all, and any recent travel history to any other state or any other district, and any other health issues. He can declare it in the self declaration form. So this allows us to have a data even in case of any uneventful doubtful case within the campus, and we find that this is a person who was unwell after a few days. So we are able to talk to that person to understand the primary contacts and take the call accordingly. So we have a designated meeting rooms for the visitors and vendors, with well ventilated and well sanitized rooms. And before and after the meetings, we ensure the rooms are sanitized well. Sorry. Then comes the washroom, which is one of the key areas, which is a place of cross infection. Like we know, it should be well sanitized at a periodic intervals. Should have disposable tissues and dustbins with lids, foot operated doors to avoid any common touch points. Sorry. Yeah, these are certain communications which I try to do in the Gemba. This is a small glimpse of the some of the activities. Like we most of our talks are based on COVID preparedness and the preventive health measures one should follow. Needless to say, my emphasis is always on hygiene practice and try to educate them about the respiratory hygiene and hand hygiene and social distance to avoid crowds, especially in the weekends, because we have a good group of youngsters as a trainee in the workplace. So there is a tendency at the weekend they travel to their natives, or they venture into the public places or malls before the lockdown, I'm telling, and they are not aware of how this they create a potential risk for themselves. So we keep educating on a very serious basis, like we not encourage them into getting into the public places, public transportation, the malls, cinema halls, etc. We also talk about the importance of vaccination. And because there is a lot of hesitation, like I told about the vaccination, there is a very improper awareness. People think vaccination is not required. I'm fit and fine. I don't have any health issues. Unable to understand the reason for the vaccination is to achieve a herd immunity. Once we achieve the herd immunity, that means herd immunity means a 70% of the population gets immunized. That is a one way of achieving the herd immunity. Then we are able to bounce back with a lot of confidence to our businesses and our day-to-day life, and everything will look normal. Until then, the second way of getting a herd immunity, which nobody would want to because of the fatal nature of the disease, is getting infected. I show it in the next slide how two ways you achieve the herd immunity, but the safe and the more better means is to get vaccinated. Thirdly, health articles shared on a regular basis, poster display at cafeteria and notice boards regarding COVID symptoms, so that it is a very illustrative poster which shows what are the basic symptoms. Like I forgot to mention, I should have told fever, cough, cold, sore throat, headache, body pain, and loss of smell, loss of taste. And I recently found a lot of diarrhea cases and vomiting. That means it not only involves the respiratory system, it also involves the gastrointestinal system. So these are certain self-explanatory posters which gives them the idea that this is a time I must inform in case I have any of these signs and symptoms. Immediately self-report to the manager or to the medical team, and we have a good protocol to follow basis the case. Educating on home isolation, there is a lot of chaos and lot of lack of proper information on home isolation guidelines. So time and again we explain to the people that there is no need to worry for a home isolation, but at the same time don't get into self medication mode. For no reason you should try to self medicate. Please contact a doctor, any online doctor or company doc. You can reach out to company doctor, or at least talk to your supervisors so that he will direct you to the right place. Most of the time it is sense that if they are unwell, they are going to lose a day's work. They don't want to miss a day's wage and they want to come back to the work. That is where the actual complexity arises. So time and again we have to take them into confidence, give them proper information to the team members and the team managers, especially the team leaders, that Don't torture them if they are unwell or anything. We have to take them into a proper understanding of the nature of the disease, and the amount of rest and care is required with self isolation. So this is the amount of education we need to impart in each and every person in the shop floor. Even if one person unaware, he has no understanding of the means of a one-to-one transfer of the infection, he may go back home, he may infect his family members also. So this education is important not only for the self care, even for the care of family members, friends, relatives, and co-workers. And last but not the least, overall well-being is something we always talk about. And this session, I could see the basic message was to address an overall well-being, and a very well thought of this message in the communication I saw in the flyer. Because just by wearing face mask or getting vaccinated, it does not gives you a complete protection. I would say in the long run, if you want to achieve good health, it is a lot of other dimensions you have to look at, like a good diet. In a proper diet, I'm going to little briefly explain what is a proper diet, because a lot of people think I have to eat good enough and not comfortable enough, so that I am healthy. I don't have any symptoms, I am healthy. So I would recommend, like, a low sugar and a low carbohydrate diet is always recommended. So we have to keep educating on them on a good dietary pattern, because you eat here and there, you go to restaurants, you pick up the food. It is not going to look at as a good healthy practice. Try to encourage, have homemade food, and encourage a healthy and fresh fruit, vegetable during this COVID scenario. A high protein meal is always suggested. So we give a lot of health guidance and health tips, apart from some a bit of yoga and things like exercises, how yoga improves your overall immunity. A little bit of stretching, a little bit of deep breathing exercise improves your overall immunity and overall health. Overall, in the sense, not only physical part of the health, even the mental part of the health. So most of this crisis COVID situation, a person is affected, the entire family gets into the stress zone. So that is where the resilience comes into picture. So once we start educating them, this is the right way to approach. Even if you're infected, not to worry, talk to the doctor. Even if you're not able to talk to doctor, we share numbers of the Aptamitra, which is given by the government helpline. There are a lot of other government helpline services. You have to approach them and take help on a timely basis. Don't assume you're in a good condition until unless you complete your 14 days quarantine. This message goes out in every Gemba loud and clear. And yeah, there are a lot of concerns and challenges, like face mask, like is it sufficient? Like wearing one face mask is sufficient. There's a lot of talks going around it. And the recent suggestion is to wear a two mask combo. And one is a surgical mask, and top of it is the cloth mask, which helps in giving a better protection. That is my suggestion. Below picture, you can see the red dotted, red and green dots. That is the vaccination impact on the community. Those who are vaccinated, uh, those who are not vaccinated, they're all in red dots, and those who are vaccinated, they're in green dots, simply depicting the picture that the incidence rate of infectivity, hospitalization, and mortality is reduced to a far extent with vaccination. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, doctor.
Yes, sir.
So we are now open for the Q&A. Doctor, there are a couple of questions. Let me read this out for you so you could then provide your answers. We have Vinod from Biosafety Officer from Syngene International. Vinod's question is, RAT testing has been challenged for its sensitivity in detecting asymptomatic cases. So in that case, do you recommend RAT over RT-PCR for proactive testing?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. It is just a screening protocol that we use RAT for. Our RT-PCR remains a gold standard. It is just if anybody is symptomatic, he is easily captured even in RAT test. So it is like, even the government is coming up with a lot of home self-testing kit in the coming time. As you rightly said, there are quality issues of the Indian make of, kits. Even RT-PCR, I would say 32%, 30 to 40% is not detecting even a symptomatic case, which requires a second test after a couple of days. That is my personal experience I am telling, because RAT is a general screening protocol we are trying to adopt, just a means of ensuring a person is not having any viral load. Still, we would miss asymptomatic case, like you rightly wanting to, post your question with. So
Thank you, Doctor. It was a pleasure listening, and thank you, Indrashekar. It's a great organization organizing this. So thank you for taking this question.
Thank you. When we go to another question, I would request the rest to please mute. Yeah, doctor, the question for you is honey. Honey from the market is more a chemical compound and not pure. Is it okay to take honey?
so it is up to a personal choice actually. It is like, not that it is a highly recommended as a, immunity booster. But if somebody is in a habit of, taking honey for, various reasons, it is okay to go with something like, Dabur Chamanprash, I would say, because there is an evidence-based study that it is a combination of multiple herbs. I would say like that, because the commercial product, I would never propose anybody to go for a processed food. It is absolute no from a medical point of view. But since people are in a habit of taking honey, at least go for a little, renowned brand, and you should read the chemical composition on the label. You'll be able to know what is the amount of sugar added, what is the amount of sodium added, etc. Based on that, you have to choose the product. Blindly don't just go for, just for the sake of consuming honey for immunity boosting. I would rather say go for a natural food like amla, or vitamin C like via lemon, or a lot of other fruits and vegetables have this vitamin C, rather than going for a processed food.
Thank you, doctor. The next question is, the first dose is over, but for second dose there is non-availability of Covaxin as of now, and also the first dose is almost more than 4 weeks.
Sorry, come again, please.
So the first dose is over.
Okay.
The second dose, the vaccine is not available.
Yeah.
Vaccine, okay.
Okay.
So maybe this is like the concern because of the time frame, where
Absolutely.
Covaxin says you have to take it at 4 weeks, I guess.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
So what do you want to say? Because there is a concern for
Yeah.
people who have taken Covaxin.
Absolutely. I would say not to worry and jump into any conclusion. Okay, not to create any pre-assumed notion about not having taken the second dose. Because see, this is a government strategy. And of course, there'll be administrative hitches because of the kind of population we have to deal with. Even for the first dose to complete for a population, it will take nearly a year's time, like you all rightly know. So the manufacturing, the production could be a challenge. But what I would say is, in the meantime, though you are very right in saying the second dose should be administered within a gap of 4 to 6 weeks, otherwise it loses its, the purpose. But in the meantime, you please adhere to your safety protocols, your COVID appropriate behaviors, because these are certain administrative challenges. I think it will be sorted in the short time. That is what I heard in the medical community. Maybe in a week's time or so, they are going to have a release of a lot of vaccines. and no need to worry, because suddenly they jumped into 18 to 45 age category where there was a sudden depletion of the supply. So they should have taken it in a little slow manner, but they opened it till 18 to 45. That was a little hitch. Otherwise, I think now that they have suspended for the time being for 18 to 45 years, next week probably it is going to be available in the market.
Thanks, Doctor. So there's a question from Chandramouli. How do you manage ventilation in closed rooms as COVID virus remains in air-conditioned rooms and circulates for many hours to those who visit that space?
Yeah, so he is talking about the office meeting places like such places or at the home. I see both the scenarios.
Correct.
See
So
both the scenarios.
Go ahead.
So in both the scenarios, like it holds good that ventilation plays a very important role. Like we all know, this is airborne now. The recent study, like we are well informed through the lot of medical literature, it is airborne too. And there are chances that if you are in a house with less of ventilation, or if you are in a meeting room with less ventilation with the AC on, the chances of spread is more. I want to be very clear and direct on this because of low air exchange possibility in closed rooms, and that's why we have to periodically at least keep the windows and doors open whenever possible. That is a one good way of dealing with this.
My question, Doctor and Indrashekar.
Yeah, go ahead, Chandramouli sir.
In a factory atmosphere like Volvo or anywhere, I know you have many meeting rooms which are seldom the windows are open. Even in March when I visited some factories, the meeting rooms are still air conditioned and windows are closed. So can we have very strict guideline that all rooms should have cross ventilation and AC should be switched off? Is it one of the recommendation by doctor in the factory room?
Yeah. No, fair enough. That is a very good.
Supply chain department, accounts department, they are always sitting there.
Okay.
If you do a small statistical analysis, I am sure you all will come to the conclusion that the shop floor people are less affected statistically than the office people in factories, namely supply chain, personnel department, and accounts. These are the areas where abroad they are gone for working out of home, whereas here we are still working in the factory atmosphere.
Correct.
Please comment on this.
Yeah. No, very valid thought. And of course, this education and this communication should go to each and every person who has a situation to work in where he's unable to have windows or sufficient ventilation, and he's working in a closed room with the AC on. I think this person we have to educate him if there is a possibility to have a room with a better ventilation, or he is able to go out of the room on a periodic basis so that he's able to get the fresh air. Any chance on any possibility of making sure the room gets the air exchange and the quality of air is circulating timely, it is going to be a good practice. And it is dependent on the people who are working here, they along with their colleagues, and they can discuss internally on administrative call and take it further, because creating a guideline around it, of course it is a universally known fact that in the open area the virus can't remain long, it gets diluted. But in a closed area we are actually creating an environment for the virus to remain there, hang in the air, and there are more chances of getting infected to one another. But point taken, because if we can bring that into practice, it is always good. I take that point.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Chandramouli-san. There's a question: how to maintain physical distance in garment industries?
Yeah. Interesting question. See, they have to abide by this, social distancing protocols. Otherwise, like I told, each and every person should be screened on a daily basis. There has to be periodic temperature checks. There has to be periodic interval where they are, given even during the coffee or tea breaks. I'm telling, not allowing them to get too close to each other. I think the screening mechanisms becomes a mainstay of a requirement in such scenarios, because you can't change the workplace, you can't change the machineries, so you have to educate each and every person. I think taking self declaration about, like a checklist, that the person is aware of what is the nature of illness, whether he is having any symptoms, whether he has any recent travel, and today's temperature and oxygen saturation. I think this becomes a mainstay in this situation.
Yep, Doctor, thanks for that. There is also, whenever the subject on garment has come up, because garment happens to be a very intensive labor force. So, perhaps when they have challenges on many other, if the infection goes more, or the number of cases within their industry goes up, perhaps they need to also look at, from the overall impact to the industry, maybe they need to work at, let's say, 70% of their workforce, or 60 or 50, something like that. They need to,
Correct.
because that perhaps becomes more important. Instead of closing the entire unit, you try to do it, with a less workforce, maybe then stagger it. Maybe
Absolutely.
something we keep coming back to the industry regularly.
Absolutely. I think vaccination
Okay, there is a
also.
question from, yeah, vaccination
I
is the
missed to
best.
tell about the vaccination part.
Yeah.
Thanks for pitching in and sharing your inputs. I missed to add about the vaccination. I think, like you rightly said, allowing the ramp up in a gradual manner and ensuring those who are in the workplace are vaccinated. Apart from the regular screening protocols, I think that will add to the
Yeah.
safety management. Thank you.
Let me go to the next question. Again, there is this, Girish from Kenya actually. Quarantine post tested being positive, post tested positive. Government suggests 10 days, but there is a practice of 14 days. So, what is your take? 10 days of leave or 14 days, what it is? So, what
Yeah,
is
yeah.
your take as a doctor?
Yeah, yeah. See, it is recommended by the very competent agencies like WHO that 14 days is a window period for any person who is infected to get out of the infective zone and can be considered as recovered. 14 days is something we call as an incubation period of the disease. So 14 days is something when the viral load in the body is little viable to cause more complication for oneself or to infect the other person. So 14 days is something which is recommended universally. So depending on one's health condition, it could prolong even more than 14 days, but minimum period recommended is 14 days. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, doctor. The next question from Magesh Babu. After 14 days quarantine, do we need to take this rapid antigen test? Okay. Our RT-PCR is mandatory for a person to rejoin the work.
Okay, okay. No, no, absolutely not required to take a second test to prove that you're non-infective or you're recovered from the illness. This is according to the latest guidelines from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. What you have to ensure is 3 days of no fever. We call it as afebrile. 3 days of afebrile nature. And if you don't have fever for the continuous 3 days, after the 14th day, I'm telling, it could be before 14 days also. So self-monitoring plays a role here. And if you have a good oxygen saturation above 94, and you're able to carry out your routine activities, because it is well evidenced with a lot of data and research that the viral load and infectivity and replication of the virus declines to a larger extent by the 14th day. So there is no need to do the retest to prove that you are out of the infective zone.
So no need of RT-PCR or no need of RAT, and
No, not
after
required.
14 days he can go and report, he or she.
Yeah. See, if a person is hospitalized, then we have a different approach. If a person is home isolated, then we have a different approach. See, a person should produce a fitness certificate. Even in Karnataka, like BBMP is giving, if a person is constantly in medical care and attention through the BBMP doctor, then he's giving the medical fitness certificate end of his 14 days homestay. Otherwise, if a person is hospitalized, it is very much recommended to obtain a fitness certificate, because due to his health condition, maybe he need to prolong his home quarantine beyond 14 days. So it is always recommended to obtain a fitness certification from the treating doctor or the hospital. Don't self-consider that you're fit. See, I as a company doctor, I always educate like you have finished the home quarantine. That does not mean you just walk into the workplace. It is at your own safety and risk, which is not recommended at all by the medical professional. We always ask him to meet any medical practitioner and get yourself checked, give your entire details, and then he will give you in writing a prescription or some medical clearance. Not exactly fitness, at least a medical clearance that you are well to do as of now, and you are not in a infective stage of illness, and you have completed 14 days of quarantine. That is all we expect in a workplace for a larger interest.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that clarity, Doctor. Chandramouli-san has a question, and would you recommend steam inhalation? Latest advice, most of us have seen this, is to avoid due to burning of mucous membrane of the respiratory system. That's his first part of the question. The second part is, what is the natural source of zinc?
Okay. See, steam inhalation is basically recommended for any viral infection. So it was into very general practice by all the physicians, but you should not get into intense steam inhalation practice. So it is maybe recommended once or twice a day. So this is where there is a lack of awareness and we get into intense steaming practice, which is not required. Maybe once or twice a day is fine. Okay. And see, a lot of study has revealed that steaming does not have a major benefit on this. Why, if anybody is infected, doesn't have a major benefit. On a daily basis, one must not require to do any steam inhalation. Yeah, he should maintain a personal hygiene. What I mean by personal hygiene is that if at all you have gone out and you come back from a workplace or office or anywhere, just make sure your clothes are washed. You put your clothes for washing. Make sure you wash your body properly before mixing up with your family members. Steam inhalation is one aspect of maintaining little bit of nasal and sinus clearance. That's all. So the kind of virus it is not going to have any beneficial effect. But yes, as a proactive means, maybe daily once or twice is okay if at all you have mild cold. And I think what was the second part of the question, sir?
It was related to the zinc.
Okay,
Zinc.
okay. No, that is
Natural source of zinc. What is the natural source of zinc?
good question. Actually, very less people, ask such kind of question. But see, zinc usage was in very high usage in the initial phase of first wave and the early second wave, because it was rampantly prescribed by the doctors to take zinc and vitamin C and other supplements. But the recent guidelines even says that there is a no medicine requirement in the first 5 days of the illness. Maybe symptomatic, just a paracetamol for the fever. In case you have fever, you have to take a paracetamol. And in case you have cough and cold, a symptomatic cough syrup or a cold tablet is recommended. Zinc, yeah, lot of food ingredients have zinc, but in particular to talk about any food is difficult. All the fresh vegetables and greens you can consume, they have a source of zinc in it. Because most of the people will be asking source of vitamin C. So there is a lot of information, but zinc per se, because it is a micronutrient again, don't have to worry as long as you are resorting to a healthy dietary practice. What I say by healthy dietary practice is if half of your plate is of fresh salad and fresh fruit, that is a healthy dietary practice, I would say. You reduce your carbohydrate and sugar intake, then the requirement of zinc will not come into the picture, because zinc is a very, very micro nutrient which is required in a very small quantity, and almost all the fresh greens and salads you consume will have zinc in it.
In fact, there was one who was mentioning in the chat, ginger has got zinc.
Yeah. See, all these herbal products, because this is a micronutrient. So analyzing the zinc quantity, now it should surface in the coming time. But vitamin C, yeah, high quantity of vitamin C, because it is a good immunity booster. Whether it is a zinc, whether it is a turmeric, a lot of people resort to tulsi also. And like I initially told, Chamanprash, because they have the combination of all the essential nutrients which we may miss during the infective period. But zinc per se does not create any difference. I mean, let me be clear on this. It is just like in any food, fresh fruit, not a processed food, will have zinc in it, vitamin C in it. You take any vegetable, you take any fruit. So no need to worry particularly about zinc, please.
Thank you, doctor. There's another question which is basically on if someone has tested positive, when can they take the vaccination?
Yeah. Tested positive and they are in infective period, I believe. So after the recovery, I would recommend after the recovery for the 3 months is a gap, interval gap, which is suggested by the WHO also, and and all the medical organizations also. 3 months period is a gap interval recommended for somebody who's tested positive and recovered. Post recovery, I'm telling 3 months. I also want to add little information to this, if it is okay.
Please.
See, a lot of people have a lot of lack of awareness. And once they get infected, let me tell you, the body has high amount of antibodies beyond 3 months. It is a long-lasting antibodies you achieve in the body after infection. So for people who got infected and recovered, I would recommend them not to jump into for vaccination. Vaccination is not actually very essential for a young age group, or or a healthy age group, I would say. But since we have to achieve a herd immunity, it is being universally distributed and recommended. But what I would suggest is, in case anybody is infected, mild or moderate, 3 months is a minimum period. There is a no need to get into the vaccination, because the purpose is entirely lost. Body has enough load of antibodies. It can sustain for nearly 6 months, but 3 months is a period where you can go in for the vaccination.
Thank you, doctor. Let me move to the next question. Please let us know the AC temperature to be maintained in rooms.
Yeah, the earlier question was not to have AC actually.
Yeah. No.
Because it is going against the air exchange provision. So in case you have to have the AC, I think technically speaking, the body temperature around 24 to 27 is what is recommended. But I'm not very clear on this. Sorry to say, I'm not very clear on this. If you have anything to add, you can tell.
Well, either I'm not an expert too, but maybe we will check with the expert and let them know. That's a better way.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a question from Prakash Toyota. Are there any air purifier system to minimize the viral load in the closed rooms? Any air purifiers? In the market, we see lot many air purifiers.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Yeah,
Will they minimize?
see, tested and proven evidence are very less tested and proven evidence. But yes, air purifier can help to some extent minimize the viral load, because it is very less proven and tested evidence that air purifier has a good impact on reducing the viral load in the environment. See, it is mostly the air purifier. It doesn't have a very strong influence on the virus in the air. But yes, you can adopt that thing, and that is not anything going to cause harm. But I don't think any beneficial effect of air purifier. Of course, there is a lot of other coexisting harmful elements in the air which gets purified, which acts as a synergistic to cause any health issues. So by purifying that, I think to a larger extent you clear the air.
Okay, there are two more questions, but I believe you have actually answered them. One is about the 14 days quarantine who test positive and can have symptoms like loss of smell, etc., and can when he can go to the work. I think the doctor answered that it's better to meet a medical professional after finishing the quarantine period, get a thorough check, and perhaps some kind of a medical letter or something can be provided. The doctor will be in a position to actually say whether he could go to work or if he still has to continue with some kind of a medication, right, doctor?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the second question here is Chandramouli Sands. How many days after COVID positive? I think you regarding vaccination. I think you have already provided your answers to that. If tested positive 90 days, after which person can go for? I think there was a comment. There's a question, do steam inhalation play any part for white fungus or taking steroid during the COVID treatment? Is this the cause?
Oh, very nice question actually, because we hear a lot of news about the fungal infection due to post-COVID infections. A lot of people who are hospitalized are facing these issues. Basically what happened is fungus is residing in the body, but it doesn't do any harm as long as our immunity is intact. Okay, most of the time when we take steam inhalation or we take any antibiotics, we are suppressing the body's immune system. And by suppressing the immune system, what happens is it gives a chance for this fungal infection to crop up. And by giving steroids or the kind of medication done in the ICU, like you give a high dose of antibiotics, there are chances that you suppress the body's normal immunity also, to such an extent that these fungal infection crop up. Whether it is a black fungus or a white fungus, these are certain natural organisms residing in the body tissues, but they don't surface because our immunity keeps them in check. Okay, maybe by doing steam inhalation, you just soothe the tissue. There is no effect on the fungus. So it is not going to affect in any way to the fungus. So it is the right attention, and need a meet professional to take advice on treatment basis fungal infection.
Thank you, doctor. Let me go through a couple of other questions. This is on this vaccination in terms of, is it only for a particular period, or is it something, maybe if I can just elaborate that one, is it something a yearly kind of a program now? Every year one needs to take a vaccine, or is it just for this particular COVID period?
Yeah. Right now we are in a situation that at least we complete our schedule of vaccination. Of course, in the going time, it could become a part of the routine requirement, annual routine requirement. Definitely there are chances, because I'll give you the reason why. Because as we know, this nature of the virus is mutation happening very quickly. There are a lot of variants of the virus already. So since the nature of the virus is quite mutating, we may be requiring in the coming time for the annual dose of vaccine.
Yep. So the question from Prakash here is, in virology epidemics, it is said that when whatever one does to prevent or mitigate the infection, even then a minimum of 5% of the population gets infected. Is it true?
Yeah. Very true. It is a very true. Let me tell you, in a group of 100 people, there'll be already, in case a group of 100 people, and we have 30 people who are known infected and COVID positive, and we have to certainly assume that at least 50 people are asymptomatic in that group, because that is the volume of asymptomatic and good resistance of the immune system to fight the disease. So in every population of one person, there will be at least 10 people asymptomatic, and they are fighting with the infection asymptomatically. And without their knowledge, they'll be spreading the disease. Let me tell you that also. Because see, this is something which is like, the fear of the unknown. That is why we call it fear of the unknown. If the person's body resistance is good, his body's fighting mechanism is good, then he becomes mildly symptomatic or asymptomatic, and sometimes not even requiring a medical care, but he will be a very much potential carrier and spreading to other people.
Yep. We just got one more from Magesh Babu. After first dose, a person got positive. When can he have the second dose? So a very interesting question. After first dose, he got positive. So when can he have the second dose? Second question, if a person affected COVID and have taken vaccine after 15 days, is it okay or it will create any issues to them? Because a person have taken like that, if this case, when can he will take the second dose?
So I think I answered the first question.
Yeah.
That a minimum of a 3 months period is good period to wait for the second dose,
Correct.
because the body would have responded to the infection so intensely that you have a very high amount of antibodies in the body. There is no point in taking vaccination within the 3 months period. So that is my recommendation. Even a person infected and recovered is 3 months time, and even after a first dose, if he's infected, I would recommend, that's my personal view. A lot of doctors would say 1 or 2 months is fine, you can take after 2 months, that's fine. It is depending on case to case basis, but a period of 3 months is also fair enough to go for the second dose.
But if a person has taken in, let's say after 15 days, will it have any, will it create any issues?
No, absolutely. There won't be any issues. There'll be overload of antibodies, in fact. So his system will be much more in an active phase. That's what, like, most of the time, because of lack of information, people get into vaccination with a lot of excitement. These are very important messages we should communicate for somebody who's infected or who's recovered or infected after the first dose. You should not just blindly give the vaccine to them, because it does not serve the purpose. Just because it is falling in that interval period, a person rushes for the vaccination. In such cases, I would say you please connect with the doctor. Don't rush in with an excitement for the second dose. That is my sincere advice, because the purpose of vaccine will be lost in case you have taken within the 3 months period after infection.
Yeah.
But anyway, it doesn't cause any harm to the
Any
body, not to worry.
Thank you, Doctor. I think we have actually, uh, done about 20 plus minutes extra on this Q&A. We were supposed to be wrapping up at 6:30. It's already 6:52. I would sincerely thank all those who participated for this wonderful Q&A session. And thanks to you too, Doctor, for answering them in the best manner. Okay, so that also is very important because today media is providing a lot of things. Then you have both print and electronic media. So much of content is available. But then when we really speak to a professional doctor in a someone who has been practicing this OHC, etc., then it actually does a lot more, I would say, bringing clarity on those specific ones, uh, enhances the awareness. Okay. And I thank on behalf of the entire panel. I would also on behalf of the president of BCIC, the senior vice president, and the entire BCIC team for supporting us in this particular endeavor of creating this, putting up this program towards health at the center of everything, and more so towards the Gamba, because that is where everything happens. I would also like to mention here Ganesh Kini. I saw your message, but certainly we will have this particular sharing those experience in another session, which we will do very shortly. So with this, let me hand it over back to Mr. Prithvi. Over to you, Prithvi.
Thank you, Indushekar sir. Doctor, we really need to thank you for bringing out this the occupational health and safety at Gamba. Is really, it was a good experience sharing that we had, and hopefully our member companies will be able to incorporate those finer prints to be in their respective organization and take it forward. And really need to thank all the participants for on a Saturday evening and at extended time, spending the time to hear some real good thoughts on this. So, as a token of appreciation from the chamber, since it's a virtual session, we will be handing you a virtual memento to you, and we will ensure that the memento reaches to your home or to your office. Purushottam, can you play the memento? Yeah, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Indushekar sir.
Thank you very much. In
Thank
fact,
you all.
I must also thanks to Indu sir and thanks to BCIC team for for the entire panel for having given me this opportunity to share my experience and address things from the medical or professional perspective. Thank you so much for patientful listening.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Doctor. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Doctor.
A great weekend.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have
you.
a peaceful evening and a peaceful Sunday too.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Thank you.
Thanks.